Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Mommy Loves to Read. I'm Olivia and thank you for joining me today. So if this is your first time watching one of my videos, hi, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope you like what you see. If you do, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe so you can see more videos. And if this is not your first time watching one of my videos, hey, welcome back. I hope you're having a great day and thanks for supporting me. So today I am here to do a book review about this book that I'm really excited about. So let's hop into this really quickly so we can talk about this wonderful book. So I recently read Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. And let me tell you guys, I think this book was meant for me to read. I have been wanting to read this book since last year when it first came out, and for some reason every time I tried to get my hands on it, it wouldn't work. I'm actually still on the hold list at my library to receive this book, so that shows you how long the hold list was, and I feel like that also shows you that this must just be an awesome book and everyone wants to read it. So my birthday was last month in April, and because of that I got some money and I bought some books, and this was one of the books that I really wanted, like I said, I've really been wanting to read. And so this was a no-brainer. I was like, yes, I'm gonna buy this book. And it's really funny too because I ordered quite a few books. Well, not quite a few. I ordered 4 books, and I am gonna do a small little video haul for that. I'm still waiting on one of my books, so when that last book comes, I'll definitely do a haul. But this was the one of the last books I ordered, but the first book that I received. So I was like, okay, it was meant for me to read this book. And you guys, I feel like I say this about every book. One of my friends was laughing and making fun of me the other day, saying that I like every book I read, but I don't. But this book, guys, I can't even say I like this book. I love this book so much. If you haven't read this book, please go read it. This book was amazing. I feel like this book had everything in it that you need out of a good book. There were certain parts when I laughed. There were certain parts when it made me really emotional. I didn't cry in this book, but I could really feel the emotions. There was parts in this book that taught me things I didn't know. And then there was just parts of this book that made me stop and think and really say wow, think about how I live my life, or little things like that. And there was parts that I could relate to. This book just had a little bit of everything, and the way that he writes and tells his story, it was never boring. It was entertaining almost. When he was telling stories, he tells a lot of stories. There was one story in here, oh my gosh, y'all, it's funny, but it's very inappropriate. So obviously Trevor grew up in South Africa, and there was apartheid. And so after the apartheid ended, there was little initiatives and things to try to bring the races together. Well, he winded up being, which is kind of a spoiler, but I guess not really, he was a DJ when he was younger, high school, and when he graduated from high school. And so he ran into this lady. It was a Jewish lady, and she was doing this cultural day program at her school, and she invited him to come to be the DJ to kind of share hip-hop music and stuff like this. So all the children at that school were obviously Jewish and white, and he brought him and his friends to help him along, and he had a dance crew that he created. And one of the people in the dance crew, which happened to be the best dancer ever, his name was Hitler. And he was saying that in South Africa, because there was apartheid, they wanted you to have a traditional African name, but you had to have I want to say English, but they weren't colonized by the English. So I don't know what you would call it. I guess a regular name that they can pronounce. And so growing up there, you meet a lot of people with the name Hitler and Mussolini, and these names that to us will be very offensive, but to them, because they weren't very educated, they didn't know. So they would just pick names that they saw in a newspaper. So they read about Hitler, but since what they learned was very censored, they just saw Hitler as a great army leader. And wow, he was saying in one part how a lot of people named their kids Hitler because they were man, Hitler had this great army, and in order to stop him, they had to send black people to help him. If they had to send black people, they must have really been desperate. So he must be this really great leader. So anyways, his friend Hitler ended up being the best dancer. So we're at this cultural day at this Jewish school. They're playing their music, and he's DJing. He's yeah, everyone having a good time. This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And everyone's dancing. All these people are dancing, having a good time. And he's are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? I have this big surprise. And so he's I'm gonna bring out my dance crew. So he brings out the dance crew, and this particular guy, Hitler, the whole dance was about him. Like, they had all these people, but he was the main part. And so Hitler comes out and they're dancing and doing their thing, and everyone in the crew is dancing, and they start saying, okay, we're going to bring our special guest. And he comes out and he's like, we're welcoming to the stage Hitler. And he's like, go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler. And they're all egging Hitler on. And so he says, everyone in the crowd, all of a sudden, they stop dancing and they're just looking at him with like mouths wide open, like, oh, what is going on? And they're looking at him like, what? Y'all don't like our dancing? What is it? And he thought it was because they were doing some offensive moves, because Hitler had this one move that kind of looked like he was like, we would call it now like twerking or grinding. And he was like, oh my God, like I'm offending these people. And the lady comes and like pulls the cord out the speaker. And he's like, what is your problem? And she's like, how dare you come in here and oppress us like this? Our people are free. And he's yelling back at her, you know, she's like, get out of here, you people. And he was like, there you go again with you people. We're free. You can't put us back in bondage. We're free. You invited us here. You're a liar. You're not really in the culture and all these things. And the whole time they're still chanting, go Hitler, go Hitler. And it was just like, y'all, I know it's so inappropriate, but this was like the funniest part of the story. So he says, like, then when they leave out, they were like, fine, we don't need you. So they grab all their DJ stuff and they tell the friend Hitler, they're like, start dancing. So the whole way out, even as they're walking out to the school and they're like on the front porch, they're like, go Hitler, go Hitler. And the people were just like, what in the world? And it was like, he was saying how like the whole time he was yelling at the lady because he thought she was saying like, you people are oppressing us because they were black and she was white. But really they were all Jewish people. And they were like, how dare you bring, like, do you know what Hitler has done to our people? And so it was terrible. But like they just honestly didn't know, because that brings like a point up in the book. He was saying how like under apartheid, like they had regular school and they had school for Bantu people, which is what they called black people. And the only thing they taught them was math and how to farm, because they were like, why teach them anything else when they're never going to be anything? And so it was really interesting. That's one thing that I loved about this book. It taught me so much. I didn't really know anything about apartheid. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know much. You know, you hear, you know, Nelson Mandela and like, oh, he was the first black president and kind of like of South Africa. And that's kind of where we pick up. But I didn't know anything before that. I guess the only real thing about apartheid I ever knew, if you guys have watched this movie, comment down below like a high five so I can see. I remember when I was younger on Disney Channel, they had the movie The Color of Friendship, and it's about like a girl who's in South Africa. She's white and she signs up for this exchange program and she comes to America, but she doesn't realize that the family that she's staying with is black because he's a congressman. And in her mind, you know, black people don't do that. And so obviously, because in her nation, that's not what it was. And so that was kind of the only thing that I knew about apartheid, like that the blacks and whites were separated, and that's about it. I really thought it was kind of like how it was here, like in America, like under Jim Crow and stuff like that. But it definitely wasn't. It was just very interesting to see how they classified things, because during apartheid, you could be colored, you could be black, and then it was something else. And like, I forgot what the other one was, but it was like you could move between the race classes. So like one year you might be classified as black, and then the next year if something happened and they did like these tests and you passed, you would be classified as colored. So it was just very interesting, because I was like, it was just very, very interesting to learn about apartheid and really what it was and all those things and how it affected Trevor, you know? And there was a couple of quotes in this book that I want to read to you guys that really touched me. And I'm just going to, like, I guess, explain how they spoke to me. And I have my little thing, so I won't have to spend time looking through the book. So we're going to start with the first, and they're in no particular order. They're just the quotes that spoke to me. So the first quote that I'm going to read to you is at the start of chapter 5. It says, it's talking about how they had like the Bantu schools and the regular schools. And it was the British and the Afrikaners who colonized South Africa. So it says, it says, the difference between British racism and Afrikaner racism was that at least the British gave the natives something to aspire to. If they could learn to speak English and dress in proper clothes, if they could Anglicanize, I can never say that word, Anglicanize and civilize themselves, one day they might be welcomed in society. The Afrikaners never gave us that option. British racism said, if the monkey can walk like a man and talk like a man, then perhaps he is a man. Afrikaner racism said, "Why give a book to a monkey?" And I thought that was really interesting. The note that I wrote under it was like, this shows racism comes in many different forms, but at the end of the day, it's all racism, just in different forms. And I feel like that really spoke to me, because I feel like now, especially in the year we're in, like 2020, we love to say, like, or people love to say, racism is not a thing, like it's gone, it's extinct. But there's still racism. It's real. We experience it every day as being someone who's African American and a woman also. And I feel like the analogy that came to my head when he was talking about the British and the Afrikaners, the British were just as racist as the Afrikaners. The Afrikaners were just kind of more like blunt with it, like, we not even trying to hear you people cannot be civilized, let's go. But it was like the British people is kind of like it is today, where some people that are racist, they like, their racism is, it has a cute little bow tied onto it. So you don't always realize it's racist. You're like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, they're willing to educate these people. But no, why is it that I can only be accepted by you if I look like you, if I walk like you, if I talk like you? Like, if you really accepted me as a person, I could do me and you could do you, and we're just going to live together like in harmony. But it's not. So I think sometimes we like forget, like I said, because it's wrapped in a cute little bow. But racism is racism. So, and then the next quote that I read that really spoke to me, this is Trevor talking about a conversation that he had with his mother. He said, so many black families spend all of their time trying to fix the problems of the past. That is the curse of being black and poor, and it is the curse that follows you from generation to generation. My mother calls it the black tax, because the generations who came before you have been pillaged. Rather than being free to use their skills and education to move forward, you lose everything just trying to bring everyone behind you back up to zero. So it was kind of saying like his mom had a really, really hard life. Like before that, she was sent to like her native village and she had to eat like pig slop and all these things. Well, she took it upon herself to get educated and came back to the city. Also, guys, I'm so sorry. It's a really, really nice day outside today. It's like a really good breeze. I have my window open and my neighbor's dogs are barking really loud. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry. It's a nice day and I don't want to close my window. So yes, he was saying how like his mom never wanted him to live with that. His mom worked really hard to like educate him and do all those things, but she always told him like, you need to go off and live your life. I don't want you to feel like because you get to this point in life, now it's your job to come back and like take care of everyone. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're paying like a black tax. Like, since you were the one person to get out, now it's your job to lift us all up, you know? So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then one of the last ones, unless I think of another one, was people love to say, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. What they don't say is, and it would be nice if you gave him a fishing rod. That's the part of the analogy that's missing. And it was really, really interesting. Like I said, Trevor wound up being a DJ when he was like in high school. And he was saying there was like a white kid that came to his school and they were really, really rich. His name was Andrew. And he like left, I don't know what it was. He graduated. And so he was like, I'm not going to make CDs anymore. And so he gave Trevor like an updated computer. And he was saying how like that boy Andrew doing that really kind of helped save him and elevate his business almost, because there was no way he would have been able to afford all those things. Even though the guy Andrew was really nice and had taught Trevor how to use all these, you know, softwares on the computer and stuff, there was no way he was ever going to get the amount of money that would be needed to buy these things. So the guy giving it to him kind of like propelled him and helped him. And it just really stuck out to me because, like he said, sometimes we'll tell people like, you'll want to go into like a place and say, well, I'm just going to teach you how to make this thing or teach you how to do this thing, and then you'll be able to be self-sufficient. But we sometimes forget, like kind of like that analogy where they say like grab yourself up from by the bootstraps. And like it's like people say, how can I like pull myself up by the bootstraps, but I don't have any boots? Like, give me a pair of boots and then I'll pull myself up, you know, by my bootstraps, and I can be self-sufficient and I can do all these things for me. But if you can give me all the tools in the world, but if I still don't have the money to kind of put these tools into action and to do those things, ain't much gonna happen. Like, I'm just gonna have all these skills and I'm not gonna really be able to use them. So that just really, really stuck out to me. So yes, guys, I don't know if you can see, but like I said, this book was just amazing. I really loved it. I'm so glad that I got to read it. I feel like this was the perfect time to read it because I had time to really like read it and digest it. And I feel like Trevor overcame so much. But I feel like another thing this book really just taught me was, I feel like this book was almost like an education in the apartheid system, and how not only it affects like South Africa when it was in effect, but even coming out of the apartheid, how it still affected him. Because Trevor is, I mean, we're pretty close in age, and so I thought that was really interesting that it made the apartheid and the things that happened in South Africa, and made it a lot more tangible for me now that I had read it, and I kind of like felt like I experienced it, and kind of how it really affected them. And I don't know, there was parts of the books, for anyone that has read this book, like, tell me how you feel about Trevor's mom. I feel like at the beginning of the book, she was talking about how under apartheid, it was illegal for you to his mom and dad weren't married, but intermingle when it came to like race. You could be put in prison for up to 5 years. And she was just and the child, if they found out that you had a child, that child would be taken away and put in an orphanage. And Trevor was just saying how like his mom, the dad didn't want to have a child. Like the mom and dad, I guess they were friends. And so the dad was like, I don't want a child, I don't want a child. And the mom really did. So finally he gave in and they had this child, but they could never live together. They could never be together because it was against the law. He even talks about how like him and his dad would go to the park, but when he became like 2 or 3, they had to stop going to the park together, because one day, like normally his dad would sit down and Trevor would just play kind of off and the dad would watch him. Well, one time they were at the park and the dad was sitting there and he started running after him saying, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." And the dad like ran away, like literally ran away, and went home and was like, we can't do that anymore, because if the cops or someone would have heard that, the dad would have been put in prison, the mom would have been put in prison. And like Trevor could have been taken away to an orphanage. And he was even saying how he went to visit, they lived in the city, but when he went to visit his grandma who lived in Soweto, I think that's how you say it, he wasn't allowed to leave the house. He had to stay in the house all day, every day, because if he ever left out of the house and the cops saw him, he would be taken away. And so, I don't know, as a mom, I was kind of like, why would you like put yourself through that and your kid through all that? I don't know. But I kind of felt like, in a way, I was like, maybe she was a little selfish. But then I'm like, I don't know, because, well, I am a mom. But as a mom, I don't know. I felt like that was a little selfish of her, so I don't know. And actually, guys, when I was talking about that, I thought of one more quote that I'm going to read. And this one really was like, wow to me. So he was talking about, Trevor was talking about when he grew up, how like when his cousins would do things, his grandma would spank them all the time and when they would do things, but she would never spank Trevor when he would do things. And the mom came home, she would just wait till his mom came home and be like, Trevor did A, B, C, and D. And he said like one day his mom was like, why don't you just spank him? And she was like, well, Trevor's white and I don't know how to spank a white person. Like when you spank him, he turns all purple and blue and I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just like not gonna spank him because I don't know what I'm doing. And it was like really like, wow, like it I don't know. It was really just interesting hearing that dialogue. And this is like the quote or what Trevor was thinking during that conversation. So it says, my mom was the only force I truly feared. She believed in spare the rod and spoil the child. But everyone else said, no, he's different. And they gave me a pass. Growing up the way I did, I learned how easy it is for white people to get comfortable with a system that awards them all the perks. I knew my cousins were getting beaten for things that I'd done, but I wasn't interested in changing my grandmother's perspective because that would mean I'd get beaten too. Why would I do that? So that I feel better? Being beaten didn't make me feel better. I had a choice. I could champion racial justice in our home, or I could enjoy Granny's cookies. I went with the cookies. And I just thought that was very interesting. Pretty much what he was saying is he was still in his grandma's cookies, but his grandma refused to give him a spanking because she was like, I don't know how to whoop a white kid. Like, he's white. I can't do that. And so even though he knew like his cousins were getting in trouble and he was the one stealing them, he was like, why would I say anything? Like, I don't want to get beat. If you can get beat for the thing I'm doing and then I just get to enjoy the cookies, like, why would I change that? And it just really made me think about, like you say, like I was saying, how racism is real even today and how things like that happen. It's like, why would I stand up for justice or do what's right when I can just kind of like oppress these people? And I know me and you can do the same thing, but you're going to get in so much more trouble for it. So I'm going to keep doing that thing that's like illegal. For example, selling weed or something. I'm going to keep selling that even though like, you know, it's not legal in certain states. And I know that if I get stopped by the cops, they're going to brush me off. It's going to be good. But if you get stopped by the cops, you're going to go to jail for the next 5 or 6 years. But oh well, like, I'm going to just live my life and not really care about the consequences, because why should I? Why should I have to care about what's happening to you, because it's not happening to me? And so, yeah, I just thought that was really interesting and it spoke to me. So yes, guys, I'm done babbling about this book. Like I said, I truly, truly enjoyed this book. It has everything you need in a good book. It teaches you a lot of stuff. Well, it taught me a lot of stuff. It made me laugh. It really made me think. And I'm so, like, blessed that I was able to read this book. If you have read this book, comment down below and let me know what you think about this book. If there was anything that stuck out to you. If you haven't read this book and maybe now you're thinking about reading that book, comment down below. And if you're like, I didn't read that book, I don't care about that book, still comment down below and let me know if anything stuck out to you and if you liked anything. And until next time, guys, bye.